Good morning, guys. September 10th, 7 a.m. All right. I am waiting on a call from Colonel Allen West. We're going to have a discussion this morning that I believe is very important based on the real disturbing footage we saw with Ukrainian refugee Iryna Zrutska. And I'm sure all of you have seen it by now. And so tragic, so sad. But the thing that disturbs me most about this case is the lack of action and the numbness that was displayed by the fellow passengers. And so the question I'm asking is, what does this tell us about ourselves, about we as a society, where we're at? And I know there's a vast gulf between Oklahoma and New York, but you know, I think that still it should highlight and make us ask the question, do we really care about our fellow brothers and sisters? Would we act? Would we respond? And um, how would we respond? I think we take cases like the Daniel Penny case when he did respond. Of course, a former Marine, he was eventually acquitted in December of last year, but was charged with criminally negligent homicide when he actually stepped up to intervene in that New York City subway. He put the chokehold on Jordan Neely, a homeless man. But how many lives did he save? How many people did he protect by taking action? Yet he was charged. And now I ask, how has that impacted others who may want to intervene, but they're thinking, well, if I do, I might find myself in prison or in a long, drawn out trial. So, again, I'm thankful that we are in Oklahoma and are insulated from a lot of this junk, but not entirely, because we need massive criminal justice reform here, judicial reform. And if we're not careful, it will go the way of the liberal states. So this is why we have to be diligent, be vigilant, and make sure we constantly return to the fundamentals, that we prioritize the family, we prioritize faith, we prioritize community, and we intervene when our neighbors are struggling. So, we might ask the question, how would I respond? Maybe the more pertinent question is, how are you responding? Are there people around you suffering that you've grown numb to, that you simply walk by? Because probably there is. Um, Sorry, I'm just checking. We'll see if Colonel Allen West calls in. We had a call scheduled here, but I realized that I never confirmed. So we'll see. If not, we'll get on and get with him at a later date. But this is again, the disturbing images of the 22-year-old Iryna Zrutska. She was the Ukrainian refugee. She fled her home country to come here, only to find herself fatally stabbed. Actually, I said New York. It's actually Charlotte, North Carolina. So, I mean, you think these things happen in New York and Chicago, but here we are in Charlotte, and Could it happen right here in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, our metros? Well, I think it very well could, and it most likely will if we do not create a culture, and that we create the culture. We are the culture, right? And so uh, the only thing you can truly do, got a lot of thoughts going through my head this morning. The only thing you can truly do is change your culture. Focus on the things that you can change. But then I hesitate there because I hesitate using the word only, because while it may be small, it is powerful. And while you may only be able to change those things immediately around you, those things immediately around you have a ripple effect, and they are necessary for systemic change. And it inevitably does impact the things connected to them. And so you change your life, you're going to change other people's lives around you. You change your family culture, you're going to change the family culture of other families. So don't dismiss it as being so insignificant. It's actually very significant. And this whole conversation, of course, is happening in the context of me running for governor and talking about how to change Oklahoma, how to bring new hope, new vision to the state of Oklahoma, and see real change in needed areas. But while I'm in the midst of all of these conversations, the thing I keep returning back to is the thing we need most is something government cannot do. Let me say it again. The thing we need most is something government cannot do. It is going to require the people, you and I, and don't sometimes we can just say the people, and we, even by saying that, we're talking about someone else. But we have to start owning. We have to start owning and take responsibility for our own lives and the lives around us. I've said this many times. I say it when I'm out speaking, but when we think about things like the healthcare situation, and I call it the healthcare cabal, with big pharma, big insurance, corporate hospitals, um, essentially dictating our access to healthcare. It doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be that way. We're seeing a lot of independent doctors shift out of that and just go out and do what they're called to do, which is serve humanity, serve people. But healthcare starts at home. Healthcare starts in your kitchen. You taking control over your own health. And we have become so accustomed to the way we eat, expecting our health to break down in our 50s, our 40s, our 50s. And we just expect we're going to be on a certain number of medications. We're going to have to retire because we'll be physically unable to work. And we've just accepted this narrative of like this gradual decline of your life. And eventually you're going to be in a nursing home. And, I just reject all of that narrative. I reject all of that. And I take personal responsibility, take personal action every single day to be healthy, to be better, and to be independent and free, not dependent on a system. And I lost my train of thought talking about the healthcare system. This is what I said. This is what I say when I go out, remind people that the hospitals, to a large degree, were started by the Baptists, the Methodists, the Lutherans, the Catholics. Think about most of the well-known hospitals, and they were started by churches, by denominations who had the conviction that they were to care for the sick. And they started these hospitals, started caring for the sick. They grew in size, and then government got involved. And as government got involved, prices went up, quality goes down. The church backs out. It no longer is a focus on the whole person and someone's spiritual well-being, uh, in addition to their physical well-being, seeing this whole holistic approach to health. Now it's simply the physiological approach. We're just looking at your body, and now we're just going to give you a pill. Just take this pill. It's going to deal with your symptoms. It's not about true health today. It's not about the whole person today. Government came in, the church backed out, and we have the current system that we have. I think the only real solution for this is to go ahead and do what we did before, for churches to go and start hospitals again, to go get back into caring for people again, in living out their faith of being the hands and feet of Jesus. And it's amazing how radical that sounds right now, when 100 years ago, that was readily accepted. That was the norm. So it just, again, points to where we're at as a culture, where we're at as society. And, this issue of Iryna Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed on this Charlotte, North Carolina light rail train, obviously racism was the motivation behind it, but it's deeper than even that. It is spiritual dysfunction. And this man, 14 prior arrests. He's 34 years old and has 14 prior arrests, including, violent crimes, armed robbery. He had a diagnosis of schizophrenia. And it took this to finally see the courts take him serious. Of course, now they're pressing for the death penalty, which is appropriate. It should be swift. It should be. I don't want to see someone like him hang out in prison for the next 60 years, living on the taxpayer dime. I mean, he should get the immediate death penalty, and it should be done. But the thing that I think disturbs me most about this whole case was the lack of action by any of the passengers on the train. I mean, it's heartbreaking to watch what happened after she was stabbed. Blood everywhere. She's grabbing her throat. She collapses on the floor, is bleeding out, gasping for air, and no one around her moves. No one stood up. Someone pulls out a phone to record, but eventually someone at the front of the car runs back and offers aid. It's too late by then. She's eventually pronounced dead on the scene, but it's this bystander effect. This bystander effect that people just are frozen in, whether that's fear or lack of courage or both. Maybe those are one and the same. Maybe it's a fear of the system and how they themselves might become the victim of the system if they take action. And that, of course, is the direct result of this left-wing liberal activist judges, the same ones who have released him 14 times and the same ones that prosecuted Daniel Penny. These have provoked a fear and an ultimate paralyzation of the people when they see something deep down inside, knowing they should act, yet they are frozen in fear. God forbid that that's ever me. God forbid that I would be a bystander who does nothing, or even worse, films it. I pray that in the moment I have the courage to move, to act, to do what is right. It really doesn't matter who's elected governor, what our laws say, all of that. That does not matter if we are a people who allow that to happen on our watch. When we defer it to government, when we say it's the government's responsibility, that, hey, that's not my responsibility. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. this bystander effect, becoming a nation of spectators. We're more inclined to film it and document it, post it on social media than to intervene. Mass indifference, all about self-preservation. These things are sad indictments on we as a people in America. This, I believe, is our core issue. And unless it's changed, a different elected official is not going to change that. So I would encourage all of us to take some time for self-reflection, to take some time to seek God, to allow his strength and courage to pervade us, to fill us, to influence us, to be led by him, to lay down our lives, to not think about ourselves first, to think about others, to develop this attitude of service again. For me, going into this seat of governor, that is at the forefront of my mind is, what does it look like to serve from this seat? What does it look like to serve from this seat? Not rule over, not to dictate, but to serve. And the reality is that service starts today. That service starts with all of us today. And we should all be asking that question. What does it look like for us to serve our fellow man? To prefer others above ourselves? You know, I think that it truly is only possible whenever you are filled with God himself. I mean, this is something, a supernatural love that can only happen whenever God himself empowers you to do that. This self-sacrificing way of life. But you know, as long as we claim to be one nation under God, this should be the characteristic of the people who claim that. This should be the thing that we're known for. People come here to America and they expect a people that is full of love and compassion. I don't think that's what it's expected, or at least that's not what is experienced. Instead, you see a society filled with selfish, self-centered, money-driven, fear-driven, sick, and we're not in a good place as a people. Now, I'm not hopeless in that, because I know and believe that this could quickly and radically change. But I do think it would be naive to ignore and dismiss our current state. So let's start with the question that's most relevant. Do you know your neighbors? Do you know if they're hurting? Your family, your closest friends? I think we start there by developing. This is how I think we develop this compassion, is we start intentionally being interested in someone else, their lives, their betterment, instead of constantly every day thinking about how to better myself. What if your thought was, how can I make their life better? How can I help them? I wonder what they need. How can I pray for them? I tell you what, growing up, there was a period of time where we were very, very poor. And I remember our neighbors coming to the door, bringing us several bags of groceries. And this came at a time when we had no groceries. Now, maybe we as kids didn't understand the severity of it at the time, and we were just raised to be tough. But I remember how thankful we were, how amazed we were, that somebody came to us bringing us groceries, that they thought that much of us. They had that kind of concern and compassion. It was so much bigger than the food itself. It was the love that brought the food. And that will change. I remember it today, obviously. That will change someone's life. a simple act of kindness. So today it's just a big reminder about where we're at as a people, what we're doing, how we're living intentionally to be the kind of people we should be. It's not going to just manifest in you. You're not going to just suddenly be kind and compassionate. I don't think that, you know, if you were the bystander on the train, how do you know that you would take action? Laying down your life and your interest and your schedule to run over and help someone else. Well, I think the way you really know is by looking at how you're living today. And I'm speaking to myself. How you're living today will tell you how you would respond in that unknown situation. So I think it's a time for us all to reflect. It's interesting. I just looked at the date, September 10th, tomorrow, September 11th, remembering 9/11 when thousands of people lost their lives. They didn't go to work that day thinking about this might be my last day. And it was just another day, just like today. So how do we make this day count? Because it could be your last. It could be my last. I pray it's not. Just the other day in Minko, thankfully, we saw the softball team preserved. They were saved when the bus rolled 3, 4, 5 times. Miraculous that they were saved. But life is fragile. Other people's lives are fragile, not just your own. We get in this political cycle, talking about political things. And it's so easy to forget about what life is really about. And so this is just where my mind and my heart is at today, is thinking about culture, where we're at as a people, what I'm doing, in the end, what the office of the governor, how it can truly impact and influence other people's lives. And it's a very powerful seat, but only up to a certain point. Only up to a certain point. And then the people, you and I, we have to ultimately take responsibility. So, yeah, I'm just gonna close us in prayer this morning, and then I'm gonna hop off because I have an interview. I'm gonna be interviewing Cole Stevens. He's running for office for a House seat, and I'm looking forward to this interview with him. So I'm gonna hop off to get ready for that. But I hope it wasn't a depressing word this morning, but something that has possibly shakes you out of your comfort zone, causes you to think, deeply reflect, and pursue the higher, the greater, and laying your life down for other people. So, Lord, thank you for your grace. Thank you for your love for us. We know that we love because you first loved us. Thank you for helping us love. And Lord, I pray that your love would just motivate us and move us to love and serve others around us. Help us to have eyes to see the hurting. Help us to show compassion, to be selfless, just like Jesus was. God, give us wisdom. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, guys. Hey, God bless. If you would like and share this, I believe it's an important message, but I try to come on here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday just to be in front of you and update you on what's happening with the campaign. And, I'm going to be at the state fair tomorrow, September 11th from 2 to 6. I'm going to be manning the GOP booth. So I'd love for you to stop by and we'll have a good time at the fair. But hey, God bless you guys. And I will see you Friday morning.